Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our group will be presenting on performance profiling. My name is Ainul Halili. My group mate is HELIHAFISAH, Muhammad IQBAL and Muhammad ZAID AKRAM.
Okay, for the slide is need analysis. Need analysis is Muhammad Iqbal, Muhammad NADZRI. Okay, 23 years old. The sport is badminton and single player category and also in national level. Okay, for the what we evaluation of this sport is movement analysis. For the movement analysis, like hitting, smashing, jumping, and leaping. Okay, for the muscular involvement, what the muscular involvement is all major muscle areas, especially the lower leg. Okay, for the type of muscular contraction, we can see the isotonic contraction happen. Okay, for the training goal is need to improve their athlete performance in badminton, especially. Okay, next. Okay, for this slide, as you can see, about performance profiling, we have two combination of performance profiling is pre and post. Okay, why the post is most higher than pre? Because at the post we using we giving the PST recommendation to our athlete to improve their performance. If you can see at the pre, the psychology part of the improvement is only 4, and for the post, you can see the psychology of self-talk increase to 8. Okay, for the imagery, you can see also at the pre, we just get a 3, and after that at the post performance filing increase to 8 also. Okay, next. Okay, for the spider web of traffic performance of the psychologist, have a 5 self-thought imagery, goal setting, concentration, and motivation. Okay, for the blue line is pre, and the orange line is post. Okay, if you can see, the post most domination of the spider web, because at this part, at this post, we are using the PST psychological to our athlete and to improve our performance athlete. And the pre, we can see the small area line that include. Okay, next.
Okay, so the ST recommendation, there are many methods that can be done. Self-thought refers to statements that the athlete address to himself, and this might require automatic verbalization or more deliberate forms of speech. Statements can be said aloud, but most of the self-thought is said covertly as a silent voice in one's mind. And then is the imagery practice, which is a powerful way to enhance the sport performance because it recruits various senses. It is the sense of sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, and vision that create the emotional hooks necessary for an efficient mental movie. The more senses the athlete are able to incorporate into an imagery session, the more powerful the image will work in his favor during competition. Next is the realization, which benefits to extend way beyond the well-being. The simple act of taking time to relax and focus, if even for a few moments, has been shown to have a positive impact on sports performance. Using realization techniques in daily sport is therefore a particularly useful skill for athletes to develop. It is a part of the way the athlete can self-regulate and manage a spectrum of unhelpful emotions that commonly associate with competitive sport. Then BMRI, or also known as the music therapy, which alters the emotional and physiological arousal and can therefore be used prior to competition or training as a stimulant or as a sedative to calm up or anxious feelings. During submaximal exercise, music can narrow attention in turn diverting the mind from sensation of fatigue. This diversionary technique, known to psychologists as dissociation, lowers perceptions of effort. Effective dissociation can promote a positive mood state, turning the attention away from thoughts of physiological sensation of fatigue. More specifically, positive aspects of mood such as vigor and happiness become increased, while negative aspects such as tension, depression, and anger are become lower. However, the PSC should be followed up by assessment to assess and evaluate the psychological state of mind of the athlete. Thus, the evaluation of doing all the PSC methods should be done by gathering all of the athlete's information, doing the related questionnaires, and filling up the evaluation form. By doing all this, the athlete will know his progress and try to fix or improve where else needed. Next slide. Okay, so this is the planning or the PST. It should begin with the macro cycle, which refers to the season, and second should begin with the mesocycle, which refers to a particular training block within that season. For example, in psychological periodization, there are a few phases that could be focused on. First, the educational phase, practical phase, competition phase, application phase, and also the individual and maintenance phase. Next, the prioritization can be proceed with the microcycle, which refers to the smallest unit within a mesocycle, usually a week of training. Here, the sports psychologist or coach can plan how many sessions of the PSA method needed by the athlete according to the performance profiling. However, the macrocycle, the annual training plan should be also considered how many competition the athlete has. Next.
Next, we'll be moving on to the microcycle, which is the smallest unit within the mesocycle, usually a weekly training. For our microcycle, will be divided into 4 phases, which is the general preparatory phase, specific preparatory phase, the competition phase, and transition phase. For the general preparatory phase, which is the pre-season, we mainly focusing on the decrease in the intensity and increase in the volume. This phase is divided into 4 categories, which is introduction, review, assessment, and maintain. The PSC that we mainly see into is goal setting, self-confidence, concentration, self-talk, focus, self-evaluation, motivation, mental toughness, BMRI, relaxation, and self-confidence. We also introduce to our athletes the evaluation of DAS, MTQA, and also performance profiling. Next slide. Next, this is our focus for athletes. It's more on the introduction to the basics skills that are in psychological form, and then we'll be reviewing every practice that they have done for each skill, and then we will assess them in the court, and then we will be maintaining the training to a more deeper way. Next slide. Now we'll be moving on to the specific preparatory phase. Specific preparatory phase, or the other name is the early season, is more increase in the intensity and decrease in the volume. At this point, we'll be asking the athlete to see the simulation in demonstration from the coach, which is we'll be asking them to make more visualization and imagery skills after the coach show the demonstrations, and also every friendly with other teams. They'll be practicing more on the self-talk, maintaining the motivation, and also on relaxation skills in the court itself, which is applying breathing technique after completion of the skills and after training. This breathing technique will be used during when opponent is leading the game during the pre-match. Other than that, we will also ask the athletes to do evaluation on their mental stability, which is reviewing their performance profiling, reviewing on the DAS, and also review on the MTQA. Next slide. Now we'll be moving on to the competition phase, which is the peak performance phases. The volume will be low and the intensity is high in this phase. This is because there is an increase in the focus and concentration in different situations, which we would like to develop more on the reaction times to return the shuttle from the opponent, and also we would like to review the entire focus plan about the pre-match, the game, and refocus previous match play. On this part will be developed your self-confidence and also match focus plan, which is in the court itself and during the match situation itself. We would like them to ensure that the game is under control by leading the game and give their self-talk between difficult situations. They will be focusing and controlling and managing any disturbance from surroundings and audience by using the skill of relaxation, which is using the correct breathing technique that they have learned before the phases, which is try relaxing and taking deep breaths in between every starting point, And also the last one will be develop strong visualization on upcoming attack from opponent by creating multiple scenarios so that the athlete could counter attack and make more opportunities to score and win. Next.
So we move to the transition phase. After the competition phase, we can see all the intensity already decrease and the volume increase. At this phase, we more on review back and maintain back the psychological skill training. For example, at session 37, we do attention focus cues to maintain the direct focus. We review back the BMRI training. We increase the motivational value by reunions and gathering. We maintain and practice breathing control. We review back the skill from previous game. We review the past game and visualize the appropriate steps, and we give explanation to generally mentally and mental training. And then last one, we take note at some performance profiling and performance analysis with psychological question. So this is the relationship between intensity and the volume in each sessions. When the pre-season, the volume is high because we introduce each part of the psychological skill training, and the intensity is low when everything is under control because you're still learning the new skill. And then we move to the early season and competition season. We know at this season there are many uncertainty happens, so we need to increase the intensity and decrease the volume to make sure the athlete is truly prepared. And for the off season, the volume is increased and the intensity is decreased. So this is the indication of volume and intensity crossover in the chart. When we can see intensity, when general competitive pace until competition pace, the intensity is increased linear, and then the volume is decreased linear. But when it comes to transition pace, uh, the intensity of the uh, intensity is increased, but the volume is decreased. So the conclusion is, after we identify the psychological need of the subject, the recommendation psychological skill training in annual training plan for the subject should be arranged properly. Besides, we need to understand the concept of volume and intensity used in each phase. For example, during general competitive phase, the volume is high and intensity is low. But at competition phase, the intensity is high and the volume is low. Finally, when we understand the concept of volume and intensity in periodization, the athlete should be performed at peak performance. I think that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.